Since the start of his career, OJ Simpson has been one of the most popular running backs in college and NFL history. During his time with the University of Southern California, he was awarded the Heisman Trophy in 1968 for his outstanding performance. OJ quickly rose to national fame for his agility and nimbleness on the field in the 70s, giving him the nickname of the Deuce. He was the first draft pick for the Buffalo Bills, playing a total of 11 NFL seasons. On the field, he hit like a freight train, dodged like a boxer, and was surprisingly quick on his feet for a man of his size. For the 1973, 74, and 75 seasons, OJ was the top-ranked running back in the country, leading the NFL with over 11,200 rushing yards and 61 touchdowns. After his career as a running back came to an end in 1979, OJ wasn't far from the field, continuing as an NFL commentator. He stayed in the public light after he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1985, and as a movie star, which he took part in several movies in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Even though OJ was known for his football career and his acting, he would soon be known for being prosecuted in one of the most famous American court cases in history. On June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman are murdered. After attending her daughter's dance recital, Brown has dinner with her friends and family at the Brentwood restaurant, where Goldman works as a waiter. Brown's mother accidentally leaves her eyeglasses at the restaurant, and Goldman volunteers to stop by Brown's house to drop them off. Brian Kalin, who was Simpson's house guest at his Rockingham mansion, just a couple miles down the road from Brown's house, hears a thumping noise on the opposite side of his wall and goes outside to investigate. A neighbor spots Brown's dog barking with bloody paws. Brown's dog leads neighbors to the dead bodies of Goldman and Brown, which lie near the gate. Waiting since 10:25 p.m., limousine driver Alan Park sees Simpson exiting his house. A few minutes later, Park drives Simpson to the Los Angeles International Airport for his flight to Chicago. Simpson checks into a hotel in Chicago. The next morning, at 4:30, police arrive to Simpson's Rockingham mansion to inform him of Brown's death, but instead discover his blood-stained Bronco and a bloody glove that matches the one found near the Goldman's body. Simpson returns to Los Angeles after being informed of Brown's death and is handcuffed when he gets to the mansion. OJ Simpson is now a suspect in the case. Since he is going to court, he needs a defense team. Robert Shapiro was OJ's first defense attorney. On June 16, 1994, OJ attended Ron Goldman's and his ex-wife's funeral. The day after that, he would get charged for the murders of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. The same day, he fled from the police in a white Bronco and was labeled as a fugitive. Once caught, he was put in jail without bail. On July 22, 1994, OJ pleaded not guilty to the murders of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson.
Do you plead to counts 1 and 2?
Absolutely 100% not guilty.
And do you deny?
There were mixed feelings in America about OJ pleading not guilty. Much of the black community at the time thought that it was another black man being falsely accused in the justice system. They believed that he was not guilty. At the time, much of the white community believed that he was guilty. The prosecution team in the trial firmly believed that he was guilty and wanted him to have life in prison without parole. On November 3rd, the jury was selected. The selection process was rigorous and it was very diverse. The jury consisted of 8 blacks, 2 Hispanics, 1 half Caucasian, 1 Native American, and 1 Caucasian female. Until the jurors were to report for duty, they were placed in hotel rooms and were not allowed to talk to anyone without a guard present. They could not watch TV and go on phones that were in the hotel rooms. If they wanted to leave the hotel, a guard had to go with them. On January 11th, the trial begins and Johnny Cochran becomes the lead counsel for the defense.
On January 24, 1995, the prosecution begins its opening statement. Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden are the lead prosecutors on the trial. They claim that the OJ's history with Nicole fueled his actions that killed his ex-wife. On January 25, 1995, the defense gives its opening statement. As Johnny Cochran opens for the defense, he says to the jury that this case is about a rush to judgment, an obsession to win at any cost. Cochran uses a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. to emphasize the pursuit of a correct verdict.
I hear a lot about this talk about justice. I guess Dr. Martin Luther King said it best when he said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so we are now embarked upon the search for justice.
He closes by emphasizing that the system works if the jury works. These jurors will be setting a relevant example to those in the community and across the United States.
On February 3rd, Nicole Simpson Brown's sister-in-law, Denise, took the stand. In the testimony, she alleged at a bar that OJ pointed at Nicole's crotch and claimed that this is where babies come from and that it belongs to him. In a confrontation at Simpson's Rockingham home, Denise Brown told OJ that he took Nicole for granted. He subsequently erupted and damaged his own personal property. There was another incident where Nicole had bodily injuries. Denise photographed them. On April 4th, criminologist Dennis Fung confessed to the crime scene's wrongdoings. He admits that the proper crime scene investigation protocols were not entirely enforced at the crime scene. Due to discrepancies with the crime scene investigation and allegations against Mark Fuhrman as being a racist man, many Americans had concerns over the legitimacy of the prosecutor's claims. Furthermore, it could have given the impression that OJ Simpson was set up due to his race or social status. On May 10th, the DNA evidence was presented. The DNA testimony begins, and jurors learn 1 day later that 1 in 170 million people, including Simpson, would have the genetic characteristics as a drop of blood that was discovered at the crime scene.
On June 15th, OJ Simpson put on the leather gloves.
The Rockingham blood.
The gloves not being able to fit on his hands were a key part of the case for OJ Simpson's defense. Mark Fuhrman was caught on tape saying racial slurs, which also helped OJ Simpson's case. They can claim that racism played a role in the trial. On September 28th, the defense presented its famous closing argument.
Blood didn't fit. Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
A couple days later, on October 3rd, OJ Simpson was acquitted on all charges. How did the trial affect different communities? The trial of the century was shocking to everyone, to say the least. The defense's tactics were groundbreaking, successfully getting OJ Simpson off of all charges. Race played a big part in the defense's arguments, and an even bigger part in the society that was watching. People's opinions on OJ's innocence were along racial lines, with the vast majority of African Americans believing that the corrupt and racist LAPD was attempting to put another innocent black man in jail. For the white community, on the other hand, many believed that OJ was left off the hook for his heinous crimes. It seemed like racial tensions in America were higher than ever, all over the murders of two innocent people.
Let's not forget that in 1992, 2 years before the trial, the city of Los Angeles suffered the worst riots in American history because of the acquittal of 4 LAPD officers for the beating of Rodney King. Just 2 years later, OJ's high-profile case centered around race left the city of Los Angeles in alarm, with many fearing more deadly and destructive riots were to come. The trial wasn't strictly racial, though. The highly controversial case made America discuss police conduct, domestic violence, and several other issues.
How did the trial start conversations on celebrity treatment in the court system? Besides the case's unique situation around race, the trial also brought the issue of the treatment of celebrities in the court and prison systems. Many at the time were asking, why was OJ given time to go back to his home, giving him time to escape? People's sentiments were that no one was above the law, so why all of a sudden was OJ getting special treatment by the LAPD? In fact, after the Bronco chase, one officer asked what the protocol was when handling Simpson. Due to the publicity of these discrepancies and the trial itself, it started a larger conversation in America on how celebrities are treated in the justice system.
The trial impacted society in a lot of ways. For one, it tightened racial relations a lot during this time, with many African Americans believing that he was not guilty and many whites believing that he was guilty. The two groups would never come to an agreement over the trial, which worsened relations between them. The trial also shined light on domestic abuse and made people more aware of it. Lastly, the trial had a large impact on how the media functioned forever. The media made the case so popular through their constant coverage that even 20 years later, there are still series and documentaries made about this case. The highly publicized case sparked many new discussions, including law enforcement's treatment of minorities and celebrity privilege.
What do you think about the OJ case? Was he treated fairly by the LAPD and the court system? Do these tensions and issues still exist today? Was justice served? Or is the real killer still out there?